Part 1. The first ring. The first time it rang, I thought it was a dream. It was 3:12 a.m. when the doorbell echoed through my apartment, sharp and out of place, piercing the kind of silence that only exists in the dead of night. I sat bolt upright in bed, heart hammering in my chest. My phone, charging on the nightstand, confirmed the time. 3:12 a.m. exactly. I live alone. No roommates. No pets. No reason anyone should be standing at my front door in the middle of the night. The apartment building's security door downstairs requires a key fob or an entry code. No one gets in unless they're supposed to be here. So I waited. Maybe it was a glitch in the system. Maybe the bell from another apartment echoed weirdly. Old wiring, maybe. The kind of stuff I'd normally write off if it didn't ring again. 3:14 a.m. Another chime. Same exact tone. Like someone pressed it once, then just stood there. I grabbed my phone, flicked on the hallway light, and crept toward the door. I didn't open it. Instead, I checked the peephole. Nothing. No one. Just the dim yellow of the hallway light and the door across from mine. I stood there, unsure what to do. Call the building manager? The cops? Tell them what, exactly? That someone might have rung my doorbell and vanished into thin air? It was probably a prank. I went back to bed. But I didn't sleep. The next night, I stayed up, just to prove to myself it was nothing. I watched TV with the volume down low. I scrolled through Reddit, TikTok, Instagram. Anything to keep my mind occupied and my eyes awake. At 3:12 a.m., it rang again. Once. Loud. Precise. I jumped off the couch and ran to the door. Looked through the peephole. Same result. Empty hallway. The air looked still, undisturbed. But this time, I opened the door. No one was there. But something was. A small item had been left on my welcome mat. Something wrapped in wax paper, held together with a rubber band. It looked handmade, and it smelled faintly like burnt matches and old perfume. I unwrapped it. It was a tooth. A human molar, yellowed and slightly cracked. There was a number scratched into its surface with what looked like a razor blade. 1. That's when I realized this wasn't random. The police didn't take it seriously. The officer who came out later that morning was polite, but you could tell he thought I was wasting his time. No signs of forced entry. You're on the 3rd floor. Hallway cameras don't show anyone in or out around that time. I asked if I could see the footage myself. He just smiled and said, "We'll take it from here." They never called back. The 3rd night, I boarded up the doorbell. Literally. I unscrewed the button casing and covered the wiring with electrical tape. I even stuck a paper sign above it. Do not use. Then I sat by the door, lights off, with a kitchen knife in hand. I waited. When 3:12 a.m. came around, the doorbell still rang. Loud and clear. Right next to my face. The button had no power. The wires weren't even touching. It rang anyway. I checked through the peephole immediately, still no one. But when I opened the door this time, something was hanging from the handle. A piece of string, tied carefully. Dangling from it was another wax-wrapped object. Another tooth. This one had the number 2 carved into it. I didn't sleep after that. I started searching for explanations. Old building schematics. Electrical issues. Ghost stories from the area. Nothing matched. Until I found a thread on a paranormal forum that chilled me. If your doorbell rings between 3 and 3:15 a.m., and no one's there, and you find something strange left behind, do not collect 3 items. Don't acknowledge it. Don't accept it. Block the door. Move if you have to. I had already accepted 2. And night 4 was coming fast. Part 2. The 3rd gift. I didn't go to work. Didn't eat. Didn't move from the living room couch except to check the locks every hour. I'd pushed the couch against the door, jammed a chair under the knob, even taped scissors open and pointing outward just in case. All that, and I still felt watched. Not just watched, chosen. I reread the forum post again and again, looking for clues. Don't collect 3 items. But I hadn't meant to collect anything. I hadn't said yes. I hadn't accepted anything. Had I? Was opening the door enough? At some point that afternoon, I heard a soft tap. Not on the door this time. The window. I live on the 3rd floor. I didn't want to look, but I had to. The curtains were shut tight, but I could see a faint shadow moving beyond the glass, not a person. Too thin. Too tall. The silhouette stretched unnaturally up the length of the window frame, like someone standing far too close and far too wrong. I waited for the tap to return. It didn't. Instead, it whispered something. Right through the glass. Right into my head. Just open the door. I made it through the day without opening anything. But night fell, and I knew what was coming. At 3:12 a.m. exactly, the doorbell rang again. This time, the tone was different, like it echoed through me. A low vibration in the chest, like standing next to an old church bell. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then I heard the sound of paper sliding across the floor. No knocks. No footsteps. I waited until 3:17. Then 3:25. Only then did I open the door. And there it was. Wrapped neatly, set on a small piece of black velvet, was another tooth. This one was broken clean in half, but the number was still visible. 3. I didn't touch it. I backed away and locked the door. Around 4 a.m., my phone buzzed. An email. No subject. No sender. Just a file attachment and a one-line message. Since you collected all 3, we can now begin. The file was a video. I didn't want to open it, but my fingers moved anyway. It was grainy footage, like it had been recorded on a camera from the early 2000s. The image flickered and stuttered, and for a few seconds it was just static. Then it cleared. A hallway. Not mine, but similar. A door. A man sitting on the floor, knees to chest, watching the knob. I realized it was me. Not exactly me, but close. Same clothes. Same couch. Same habits. He stared at the door like it might eat him alive. Then the door opened. Not like someone turned the handle, like it just unlatched itself. He didn't move. He didn't run. A figure stepped in. Tall. Shadowed. Gliding across the floor. A long arm reached out, impossibly thin, and touched the man on the shoulder. He screamed, silent in the video, but I could see the terror in his eyes. And then the screen went black. I tried deleting the file. It wouldn't go away. Tried smashing my phone. The screen cracked, but the file still played. I turned everything off. Unplugged the router. Yanked the power cord from the wall. The lights still flickered at 3:12 a.m. The bell still rang. That night, I didn't check the door. Didn't open it. Didn't speak. Didn't move. And when I woke up, it was morning. For the first time in 4 days, I felt like I'd broken the pattern. Until I looked in the mirror. There was a tooth in my mouth that wasn't mine. It was yellow. Old. Carved with the number 4. Part 3. Number 4. I tried pulling it out with pliers. The foreign tooth. But the roots felt deep, deeper than they should have been. Like it had always been there. I pressed my tongue to it. It ached with cold, as if it didn't like being touched. Like it knew I was thinking about removing it. Every time I even looked at it in the mirror, it pulsed with pain, low and rhythmic, like a second heartbeat. I tried ignoring it, but the numbers kept increasing. The next night, I didn't wait for the doorbell. I left the apartment. I drove to a 24-hour diner across town and parked under bright lights, in full view of cameras. I even told the waitress my name and asked her to remember me. Just in case something weird happens, I said. She laughed it off. But when 3:12 a.m. hit, I knew I hadn't escaped it. Because the lights in the diner flickered. Because my phone vibrated once. Because the bell above the diner door rang, but no one came in. The waitress checked the entrance. No one was there. But when she returned to the counter, her face had gone pale. "There's something on your booth," she said. I turned slowly. There, placed neatly on the table where I'd been eating pancakes, was a napkin-wrapped bundle. I didn't want to open it. But my hands moved on their own. Tooth number 5. I moved in with a friend the next day. Josh. I told him everything. He didn't believe me, of course. But he humored me. Let me crash in his spare room. I thought that would be enough. But at 3:12 a.m., his microwave beeped. Just once. The digital clock flashed 3:12 in bright green. Then the doorbell to his apartment rang. Josh opened the door without thinking. No one was there. Except something small, wrapped in wax paper. He unwrapped it. His face went white. It was a tooth. But this one didn't have a number. It had my name carved into it. We burned it. Put it in the grill on Josh's balcony and watched it sizzle and smoke. The smell was awful, like hair and rubber and something rotting. But it didn't stop. That night, I had a dream. A memory. My grandmother's house. I was 6 years old, sitting in her kitchen. She'd lost a tooth, an old molar, and was boiling it in a pot of water. Teeth hold memory, she told me. You can bind something to a person with one. You just need 3 to open the way. I'd forgotten all about that until now. She died a year later. The next morning, I checked my mouth again. 2 foreign teeth now. Both stained. Both cracked. One had fur carved in it. The other, 6. I hadn't received it. I hadn't touched it. But it was in me now. And something was getting closer. At this point, I did what I should have done at the start. I drove home, back to the house I grew up in. My mom still lived there. She thought I looked terrible. I told her everything, expecting her to laugh, cry, hug me, something. She didn't flinch. Instead, she said, "I was wondering when this would find you too." Then she showed me her mouth. 4 of her teeth were carved. All had numbers. Part 4. Inherited debt. My mother didn't cry. She sat at the kitchen table calmly, sipping from the same blue mug she'd used since I was a kid, and told me everything. "It started with your grandfather. He was the first to hear it, the ringing. Back then, it was a knock. 3 soft taps at exactly 3:12 in the morning. They say it used to knock before it learned how to ring." I stared at her, trying to process that. "You're saying this has happened before?" She nodded. "Every generation. Always the same time. Always the teeth." I couldn't speak. She reached into the drawer beside the fridge and pulled out a folded piece of brown paper. Inside were 4 small molars, each marked with carved numbers. The edges were burnt. One had a crack running down the middle like it had been split with a chisel. "These were your aunt's." She tried to bury hers. Thought the ground could silence it. "What happened to her?" My mom looked away. She stopped answering the door. Then she stopped speaking altogether. I slept in my old bedroom that night, if you could call it sleep. I lay staring at the ceiling, listening. At 3:12 a.m., I heard it. Not the doorbell. The knocking. 3 soft, rhythmic taps on the front door downstairs. I stayed perfectly still. No footsteps. No voices. No creaking. Just that unbearable silence. And then something worse, breathing. Somewhere outside my window, 3 stories up, I could hear slow, wheezing inhales. Like something enormous was perched just beyond the glass. It whispered again. "You open the way. You carry the door now." I covered my ears, but the voice pressed deeper, bypassing sound entirely. It wasn't speaking to me. It was speaking through me. When morning came, I checked the mirror. 3 foreign teeth now. The new one bore the numbers 7. And this time, it didn't feel like a tooth. It felt like bone. My mom made me tea. She said the only reason she was still sane was because she never let it finish. The door must not complete the pattern. There are 9 teeth. Always 9. Always carved. If it finishes the circle, it steps through. I didn't want to know what it was, but I knew what came next. I asked her, "How do you stop it?" She looked at me. "You give it someone else." That afternoon, I drove. No direction. Just motion. At one point, I caught myself gripping the steering wheel hard enough to make my fingers cramp. The voice was louder now. Not whispering, but humming. It vibrated in my jaw like static, like I was tuning into a frequency no human was meant to hear. I drove until sunset. And then I saw the boy. He was maybe 11, sitting by the side of a gas station near the highway exit, holding a handwritten sign, "Lost. Need ride home." I pulled over. He approached slowly, cautiously. "Where's home?" I asked. He looked up at me with eyes far too old for his face. "You don't have to give me a ride. Just let me ring your bell." I drove off. Fast. Didn't stop until I reached a motel an hour away. Paid in cash. Used a fake name. At 3:12 a.m., my room phone rang. 3 times. I didn't answer. By morning, tooth number 8 had appeared. This one had no carvings. Just a hole drilled straight through the center, as if something had peered through it. Part 5. The 9th ring. I tried everything to break the pattern. I crushed the teeth with a hammer and flushed the dust. I drowned the bell's wires in epoxy. I moved into a trailer with no address, no mailbox, no doorbell. Didn't matter. It still found me. At 3:12 a.m., something would ring. A phone. A wind chime. A service bell in a gas station bathroom. Always 3 chimes. Always followed by a gift. I started pulling out my own teeth. Desperate. I thought, if I give it what it wants, maybe it'll stop. But the ones I removed weren't the ones it left. Those remained firm, foreign, eternal. By day 12, I was missing 4 of my own and still had 8 of its. Each morning, I'd wake up with a new one, embedded deeper, carved with symbols I couldn't translate. Lines. Spirals. Inverted numbers. And every night, it waited. I went back to my mother's, or what was left of her. The house was dark. The front door open. Inside, I found her in the basement. She'd carved a door into the concrete wall. Not drawn, carved, deep and meticulous, like it had taken years. Around the arch were the numbers 1 to 9, etched in a perfect ring. She lay in front of it, her mouth stretched open in a silent scream. Every tooth missing. Except one. A single molar sat in the center of her tongue, carved with 9. I ran. But I already knew. It wasn't her house anymore. It wasn't my mouth anymore. And I wasn't carrying the door. I was the door. That night, the dream changed. I stood in a hallway made of bone. Behind me, darkness. Ahead, a shape. It was humanoid, but stretched, its limbs too long, its mouth frozen in a grin that didn't move. It stood at a distance, but I felt its fingers brushing my face, my ribs, my gums. It whispered again. "You're almost ready." Then I felt something unlock in my chest. A click, like a key in an old lock. And I woke up with the taste of salt and ash in my mouth. Tooth number 9 had arrived. I stood in front of the mirror. I opened my mouth slowly, trembling. They were all there. 9 teeth. 9 symbols. Each pulsed faintly. Not visibly, but inside. Like tiny organs. Like keys. I pressed my palm to the glass and whispered, "What do you want?" The reflection didn't mimic me. It grinned. "We don't want to come through a door. We want to come through a person." That was last night. It's 3:07 a.m. as I write this. In 5 minutes, something will ring. I know it won't be my doorbell. There's no house left. But it will find a way. So if you're reading this, if something rings tonight at 3:12 a.m., don't open anything. And whatever you do, don't let it finish the night.